And we've only purchased one house this year because we've been focused on creating great content like this podcast and getting our book out and things like that. So the one house that we did buy this year, we thought it was higher priced than we really wanted to pay, but we were willing to pay it because we knew the fundamentals worked. It cash flowed, it hit our criteria. And we knew in 3 years we were not going to be upset that we bought that house.
No, I'm very happy we have that house, and the people that live in that home are very happy to have a place to stay.
Right. And so, we added a lot of value to it though by adding a bedroom and converting a half bath into a full bath. So that's where we were confident paying quote unquote over market, but in the long run it was a good choice.
Yeah.
So if you're investing for a shorter term horizon, or if you're flipping, the current price really matters. But if you're investing on a longer horizon, spreading that additional cost over a 30-year mortgage is not going to have a huge impact on your cash flow.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that reminds me of what I was going to say earlier.
Oh, circling back.
Yeah. If for some reason the market does change and let's say your Airbnb shuts down, when you entered into that property, if you strategized and said, okay, it's going to negative cash flow as a single family home. Let's say it negative cash flow is $400. It would be very wise for you to say, okay, this $400 from my W-2 income is going to be dedicated for that property just in case. Absolutely dedicated to that property just in case. And when the market gets to a point to where it will cash flow as a single family rental, I will no longer allocate this money from my W-2, my job, toward that home. Now, what I'm saying is use that $400 a month from your W-2 and put it in the bank for that property.
Right. Yeah, and
just to carry
whether it's from your W-2
case.
Or other investment properties.
Yeah. Maybe you have another house that cash flows $600 a month, and you say, okay, this house doesn't cash flow $600 a month, it cash flows $200 a month, and I'm allocating this $400 toward this house just in case.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, no matter what strategy you take, the safest way to approach it is cash or access to cash. Because if you wind up in a situation where you can't continue with that strategy that you've been using, but you've got money in the bank, you can weather that storm a lot easier and a lot less stressfully, and you can sleep at night if you have cash or access to cash. You don't necessarily have to have it sitting earning 0% interest, but if you have a line of credit or financial friends and can get access to that cash, it can make all the difference between going bust and
because let's say
continuing to thrive.
Let's say your note gets called for some strange reason. Say one of your home's notes gets called, because there's a call in most every mortgage. And, let's say one for $200,000 gets called and you still owe $170,000 on the mortgage. Do you have a way to get money? Do you have a way to get $170,000?
Right.
Because if that note gets called, there's probably some big things happening.
Yeah.
And there's a likelihood that a bank is not going to give you money for it.
Right.
So how are you going to pay $170,000? And that call is probably going to say you got 30 or 60 or 90 days to pay it. What are you going to do?
Right.
That's where relationships are huge and important. And having financial friends are huge and important. You might go from you owning a great investment property that brings you $500 a month to you now share that home in an LLC or a trust with 5 other financial friends, because that's how many people it took to rally up that $170,000. And now you just have a piece of that pie. But you got to have those strategies in mind for when those situations arise.
Yeah. Well, we were playing the game cash flow, and we were winding down the game. We put a time on it because we could have stayed up till midnight playing, but it was pretty much the last deal of the game, and it required a $40,000 down payment. And the person with the card could not afford that full down payment.
Yeah.
So she went around the circle and asked everyone how much cash they had to see if we could come up as a group with that down payment, and then we'd figure out how to split the deal. Mm-hmm. Turns out it wasn't going to happen. There wasn't enough cash available. Yeah. But...
And just so you know, we had 2 different families over to play cash flow with us, and there were, 8 players during this game? Yeah, so there was a lot of players for this game. But like you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we tried to pull the money together, couldn't do it. So we lost the deal. But the willingness to share a piece of the pie was so interesting to see and so cool.
And there were some high schoolers there playing with us. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Because, one of the very first deals came up, and one of the players who was a high schooler said, "Oh, I can't afford this deal." So he was going to put the card back, and I said, "Wait a second. Do you want to sell that deal to someone else? Or do you want some help?" And I remember I went in. This was a fun card to do because there was like this duplex that came up, and him and another player had all of the money raised, and they were going to split the deal. And I said, "Hey, what if I come in as a third party and I just give some money, and I don't want any of the cash flow? I just want the ability to capture some of the upside if there is ever a buyer." And I didn't put a lot of money into it. It was like $2,000 in the game. But later on in the game, like an hour and a half later, my $2,000 became $15,000, $20,000 in the game. So there was a teaching opportunity there to show them that you don't always have to get the cash flow, or you don't always have to get the asset, or you don't always have to be the individual owner. There are ways to partner and to have, professional relationships within a business that own properties, and, everyone wins.
Right.
So it was a fun learning moment for them, because they even said, "I would have never thought of that." And It's great to just open their eyes to that.
Yeah.